the real Puff Daddy is.
What Jada be running around here calling you some type of mad scientist?
Can I hang out with my friend?
What friend?
Chris.
Where did you see him?
He talks to me. Ew.
What's going on, YouTube? You back in the Low Key Cave, Keyshawn Nam's YouTube page, aka Mr. Low Key, and we black with another movie review. Did I say we black? I mean, hey, it works. But anyway, I'm just messing. We are back with another movie review, and we got the angry black girl and her monster. I seen a trailer for this, and I didn't really know what they was gonna give me with this. I didn't know if we was going into a complete direction of straight up horror, monster, or whatever, or I really just didn't know. Going into this, and even going into the opening credits, I kind of had a feeling of where we was going to go. And I was wrong. Which I was kind of glad I was wrong. Then it was like, okay, maybe I kind of would have wanted that instead. But the opening of this is good, man. It's kind of, I'm not even going to say kind of, it is impactful. And it's more so the performance of the young lady playing Vixeria, if I'm not mistaken, that's her name. But we get this opening where her going into the whole thing of the tragedy she's had to go through. At an early age, she lost her mother to gun violence. And recently, one of the things that really hits home to her and it constantly leads her into the direction she ends up going in, which is her trying to cure death, is the death of her brother, who ends up dying by gun violence also. And her whole thing is this disease. And what she's calling the disease is basically gang culture, gun violence, and basically everything that's kind of a turmoil to black people, especially in inner city neighborhoods. And what she's dealing with, the projects. Not only that, dealing with the whole thing of gangs, living within the projects, selling drugs, all of that. Even dealing with a father that just so happens to be on drugs. I'm not going to even necessarily call him addicted, but it's the whole thing with what they're going through as a family, with him losing not only his wife, but losing a child. So going into this, it was definitely gave me a character that I was ready to follow, and I definitely was ready to care about as far as Vixeria, and ready to see where we were going with this story. And immediately you see that her whole thing is trying to bring her brother back to life. And I feel like this is her first direction in seeing if she can make this happen as far as just bringing people back to life in general, because that's her whole thing, and her whole mission is seeing so many people die, not only in her life, but in the area or in the environment that she's from. You even have another death that ends up really hitting her at home as far as a friend, I would say, well, one of the inner city kids that she's been playing with that ends up dying. So would I say you understand her? Yeah, I mean, everything she's going through, but it's not only that, it's the fact that she's also very, very smart. And we are definitely getting somewhat of a Dr. Frankenstein type story. I ain't gonna call it a Dr. Frankenstein hood story, but it's almost basically the black version of a Dr. Frankenstein story, dealing with this young black girl who is very, very smart and is very keen on death. She's having a moment, and I love this moment. I did enjoy this moment where she's in school and she's trying to explain to her teacher certain things dealing with death or whatever, and her teacher basically is like, why are you talking about this, or why are you thinking about this or whatever. And it's a crazy scene leading up into a whole scene where her ending up calling the police or getting her arrested or whatever, like really getting manhandled, arrested, just because of her having a debate or a conversation with her teacher or whatever. And it ends up being a scene leading into her father coming in there and going in at the teacher, a real conversation. And once again, this is one of the things I really enjoyed about the movie, because we're going to get into the horror aspects, but as far as the social commentary, it's not heavy-handed. It makes sense within the story. We got a lot of those, woke things going on as far as within movies or cinema nowadays, even within horror or comic book genres or whatever. But with this, I feel like it works because you got to think about it. Even with the Jordan Peele movies or whatever, black people, as far as our history or whatever, it's a damn horror story somewhat dealing with slaves or dealing with the police. We have so many horrific events that have happened to us, then these certain stories make sense. So you can't necessarily call it woke because it's the actual scary things we have to go through. It's a scene in here that ain't got shit to even do with Chris. Well, it kind of has something to do with Chris, but it doesn't, where these cops are knocking at the door, and it's a tense ass scene because these niggas are really trying to get in because something happened to a cop, and it's almost like if they were to get in there, it ain't gonna be no, we need some questions, we need to know if you seen anything suspicious around here. It's more than likely gonna be somebody end up getting shot because you can tell these cops are kind of on a rampage because of one of their fellow officers being gunned down or whatever. But outside of that, like I said, it's a lot of good moments in here dealing with social commentary, talking about the things that are actually going on now, even with them doing the whole thing with trying to push a lot of black history out of schools or whatever. So I enjoyed those moments. They wasn't heavy-handed for me, and they didn't take me out the movie because of the direction the movie was going in. The horror aspect. Once everything starts to go down, it is definitely a build-up. It's more so anything a bunch of like, I ain't gonna necessarily call it sneaking around, but once she actually goes through with the stuff, it's almost like it is kind of confusing because it's like, yo, you did this, now why you acting like you scared or whatever, which you understand because it's like you didn't know if this was gonna work or not, and then once this actually worked, and even when she does what she does, Chris, or aka the monster or whatever, he's not necessarily actually aggressive with her, and it's like you took him to do something, and once he actually does it, it's like, what made you scared? Because he didn't come after you, he came after the other people, which you are actually blaming for the death of your brother. So that's where I thought we was kind of going in with the direction of this. I almost thought we was going to get somewhat, not really a revenge story, but somewhat of her making this thing that kind of is a protector of the neighborhood or whatever against cops or against gangs and, drug or whatever that's destroying the neighborhood or destroying the people or whatever. But it didn't go in that direction. So it was interesting seeing just the way they tried to start going once they mixed the social commentary in there and they tried to throw the horror in there. I will say, did it blend well? Like I said earlier, it made sense for the story, but as far as the blending of it, it was going in here and there a little bit for me. It was like I'm keeping it here with you, but I am kind of ready to get to some of this horror that we supposed to be getting. And was it worth it leading up to it? Not really. Not really. And then it might have been somewhat of the budget, which I don't really know necessarily say, because you could tell where they was trying to really use the money at, especially with some of the gore effects and even with some of the effects that they have with Chris and the way he's looking as the monster or whatever. So the horror aspect of this, it wasn't scary. I'm going to go ahead and say it. None of this was scary. They even got these moments with this little girl that has these certain moments where Vasira, I hope I'm saying her name right, Vasiria, and they actually are more funny than scary because she tries to have these little creepy moments as far as the little girl. And it's like, okay, are you like trying to be creepy? Are you trying? Because it's like, I don't know what necessarily you doing. Are you just messing with her? I don't know. But as far as them trying to make her scary or creepy or whatever, it didn't work. Maybe because the little girl was so damn cute or whatever anyway, as far as I got daughters or whatever. So I was looking at her like, nah, she's a precious little self. She ain't scary. You ain't intimidating nobody. But more so than anything, man, I enjoyed the chemistry and the performance and the acting, the emotional moments you get with Vasiria, and as far as the girl playing Vasiria, they are definitely way believable. And even the family aspect that they have in this movie is definitely believable. So the chemistry everybody has, it works. It's some cliche gang moments in here. It's a lot of those cliche gang things that you have seen in all your typical hood movies or whatever. Even I would say going into the end, it kind of has this somewhat, I don't want to get nothing away, but it has this little, I guess, anti-hero moment. And it's like, I kind of seen this coming. And even when they do what they do, leading all the way up into this little plan they come up with, I was like, I kind of seen it coming. I'm trying to make sure I don't give nothing away too much before anybody who ain't seen it, because I do feel like this movie's still fresh and a lot of people probably still haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But outside of that, I still enjoyed it. I did enjoy it as a full-on horror movie, probably not. But as far as like somewhat of a thriller, like I said, with them adding the social commentary on there, I enjoyed it for what it was. It definitely was not scary to me at all, though. It wasn't scary, and I feel like we just didn't get enough of the monster things with Chris. Even with what they did at the end, it was like, I mean, I see what y'all doing, but it's like, all right, okay. Anyway, overall, did I enjoy this? Like I said, I did. It's definitely worth the watch, I will say. And as far as overall of what they've been doing recently, and I talked about this on my podcast on Kaddish Talk, which y'all can go check out on Saturdays or Fridays, and we got a recent episode we just did, which y'all can go check out. The renaissance of what they've been doing with black horror films. And like I said, when you do throw these certain social commentary moments in here, it makes sense, once again, dealing with our culture and the things we've had to deal with as black people. So I will say I'm looking forward to more black horror films sooner than later. And even with ones we getting like this, that's outside of, Joy and Peele or whatever, I hope we get more of these. But y'all let me know, how did y'all feel about The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster? If y'all have had a chance to check it out, and if you haven't, you definitely should give it a try. Other than that, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell, let you know when I upload new videos. Other than that, we out.